All right. We are live. I know I totally threw you for a loop because I didn't put the countdown in there.
No, I was what the heck is going on? Jeez.
Yeah.
I thought you were all excited because finally everything was working without having to go through it.
I
and
know,
stuff.
right? So, yeah, just jumping into it. No countdown. It's been a while. Episode 8. We had a hiatus. Life gets in the way. Lots of things, but after an amazing weekend that we're going to talk all about, we were reminded that we're doing this for a purpose and that it can actually serve to help people going through similar circumstances. And we can't take a long break like that again, unless it happens to be between seasons. And even then, not so long.
It's kind of like going to the gym. If you don't go that first day and the second and stuff, and we just get kind of lazy, complacent, and other stuff going on in the world. And yeah, you make a really good point that we're doing this for a reason. And it's important. And I just want to point out real quick, because I just noticed it on the camera. We have this huge gap in between us, but not for any particular reason.
It's just to be closer to the microphones.
It's like after all these months, and then they finally come back and there's this distance. What's going on with them?
No, definitely not the case.
Stronger than ever. So hey, are you hearing me okay?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Do you want to start with a prayer?
Yeah, I was just about to ask you the same thing. Would you like to lead that?
You want to do rock, paper, scissors?
No.
No, seriously, let's do it. Best 2 out of 3.
Rock, paper, scissors. Bam. Rock, paper, scissors. I knew you were going to do that. Rock, paper, scissors.
It's all you, baby.
You should be leading it because of the experience of the weekend.
All right. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
Dear Heavenly Gracious Father, we come to you tonight and just thank you for bringing us back from this long break, reminding us that your love is constant and pure and always there when life gets in the way. We want to thank you just for continually staying with us, showing us how much you love us, giving us opportunities, and being able to share all these wonderful things that we have recently gone through with as many people out there as possible. Lord, if there's at least just one person out there that can hear our message tonight and gain something from it, then we have accomplished what we are here to accomplish. It's in your most precious and perfect Son's name that we pray. Amen.
Amen.
All right. So yeah. So what has happened, and we had mentioned this. I can't remember actually if we mentioned this on our last podcast, because it was like March, I think. And I can't remember if, oh, wow, look at that.
Yeah, too much though. Let's tone this down.
That's nice.
Should have done all this ahead of time.
That's okay.
However,
hey, it's life. So I think we mentioned it. I don't know. So we just got back from Honey Lake, which is where I went for 6 weeks back at this same time 4 years ago. And I was invited back to the Honey Lake Alumni Weekend and was able to spend Friday, Saturday, and a lot of Sunday with, I think there was 9 of us. There were 9 of us there. And what it really did for me was remind me that I kind of was getting a little bit complacent, not in my sobriety. I've been sober, but it reminded me that there was a piece missing from me. Those tools and the camaraderie and the message that I had learned in my previous stay, I kind of let go of you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so it just like re-energized me. We actually, not we, they at Honey Lake have alumni calls that happen during the week. We've already been on 2 of them this week, that keep a consistent, what's the word I'm looking for? Not timeline, landline. Is that the right thing? Oh, the right landline?
No.
Not landline. That's a phone.
It is not. Remember a long time ago in a very early episode when we talked about how she like uses crazy cliches, puts them
Lifeline.
together. There you go. There you go.
A lifeline.
Cliches are not her forte.
It's so not. Anyway, it reminded me that, you know, and quite frankly, this is something that I haven't expressed to you. This is why I love this podcast, because even though we see each other every day, we talk and stuff, sometimes we don't really get to express everything that's going on in our world. And I think a lot of couples go through that, and that just kind of widens a gap as far as connecting with your spouse. But one of the things that before Honey Lake, I was really excited about going for this past weekend, but I was kind of feeling not depressed or anything, but within the past few weeks, just kind of feeling a little bit ho-hum. You know, I needed not some excitement in my world, because you're more than exciting enough for me. I needed some.
You need like a recharge.
Jolt. I needed a recharge,
right? A recharge, especially when it relates to all of that.
Yeah,
we go through a similar thing in our real estate world, the whole bold thing. Right.
Yeah.
It's kind of a similar process. When you get in a slump, or you're kind of down in your business and you need a recharge, then there's a program called Bold that we do. And in the simplest of terms, it's very much like that, just for a different experience.
Yeah.
Right.
I agree. I was going to say something, but then
write that down. I want the time, the day that she said that I was right.
Anyway.
Well, she said she agrees. It's basically the same thing, right?
You're right. You're right. So yeah, I was really looking forward to it. So what transpired, I was able to go back to Honey Lake. It was just so super special because, again, it was like my 4-year anniversary. My sobriety day is May 16th of 2020. And then I was at Honey Lake from May 21st to July 2nd of 2020. And so I spent my birthday there, my granddaughter's birthday's there. It was just, and I was able to walk around. That was like the best part. I was able to show, and I can't wait for you to express, you know, all your thoughts that you had on it.
Yeah.
I was able to show Brett certain places that I went, and you know, the place that I went around the one lake, where I just kind of completely surrendered to God. And something that we were talking about with the alumni this past weekend, a lot of times when patients come back, you know, hopefully, you know, you're different. You've learned something, you're applying something. And then the people that you come back to, they just don't really have an understanding. And I know it's like, would you say that at least once a week, and I know it's more than that, but at least once a week ever since I came back, I've mentioned Honey Lake in some shape or form?
Yeah, for sure.
Because it's just such a part of me. And, you know, hopefully now you have a little bit of an understanding. But one thing that I want you to let everybody know is, so when we were driving up, it was so emotional, and it's crazy. I had different feelings driving up the first time and different feelings driving away the first time. Same for this. When we were driving up, I was just like flooded full of emotions, teary-eyed and everything. And when we were leaving, I thought I was going to cry too, but I was nothing but like joyful.
Are you sure you weren't teary-eyed on the way there because you could hear banjos playing in the distance and were afraid what was going to happen to you because it's in the middle of nowhere?
Absolutely not.
Okay. Well, I'm pretty sure I heard banjos playing.
That's the first thing you said too. Yeah, well, so be it.
It is literally in the middle of nowhere, Florida. That's the name of the town, middle of nowhere, Florida.
MONFL. But so when we were getting up to the gate, so we got there Friday night, and we were able to, I guess I'll go through the quick timeline of what we did. So
can we start with this as far as do you know the history of why Alumni Weekend came to be? Do you remember from Pastor John talking about it? And like that's the only name we're going to mention, right? We're not mentioning any names for obvious reasons, but Pastor John and his wife Tiffany are instrumental behind all of this. Do you know a little bit about that history?
A little bit. It sounds like you know more. So
I don't think so. No.
It kind of sounds like you're a really great interviewer. I think so. Him and his wife wanted to have some kind of a lifeline for the people that were going home, because, you know, that's really a lot of where the struggle begins. And have, you know, we have Zoom calls, and I know that a lot of people still connect with the pastor just via phone and whatever, and he gives this amazing continual support, him and his wife. But wanting to bring people back to not only be able to help the patients that are currently there and show them that there is hope and that there's life after Honey Lake, and it can be a big, beautiful life. To give them hope, let them know that there are people just like them out there, and then also to let us experience and fill our buckets, I guess. I mean, that's the best way I can put it, unless you have something else to add.
No, I mean, I think that's got a lot to do with it. I think for the people that are currently at Honey Lake when an alumni weekend happens, like you said, it's to give them hope to see that there is success on the other side. Not all of us, but most of us gave testimony, and those testimonies go a long way to help the people that are currently there to realize that they're not doing it for nothing. We connected with some amazing people, and we'll talk a little bit about that later as we go on with the show. But giving them hope, realizing that there's been people that are in almost their exact same circumstance that have come out on the other side and been successful.
Yeah, that was amazing. You know, one thing that I really appreciated too is, like, I couldn't wait to give my testimony because I haven't really given it. At church, I was approached well over a year, 2 years ago. And it's funny, back up for a second. I actually was asked to write it down in September of 2020. And I remember this because, you know, going through my notes and stuff, I wrote it down. And I had sent it to one of our pastors at church, and nothing really transpired from it. And I'm glad it didn't, because I was just kind of fresh out of Honey Lake. I felt really good, but I didn't have any sober experience under me yet. And so I was so pumped up to give my testimony and nervous at the same time. I was nervous. You know, I speak in front of people a lot when I'm using a script. Normally, I'm really great when I have a script, not when I'm trying to think of words off the top of my head. Wasn't really nervous like that. I just wanted to make sure that it was going to be impactful. And so the ladies and I, you know, poor Brett, he actually stayed in a hotel away from everybody, because the guys that went had their own Airbnb. The ladies had their own Airbnb. And so we gave our testimony on Saturday evening. So all Friday night, all Saturday, when I was spending time with the ladies, it's like we all had this common ground of one of the girls, she's like, I'm going to go read my Bible, because she wasn't sure what to say. But we were like, you know, we were nervous about it for whatever level and reason and stuff. We all did. I'm not going to say we all did a great job. I think I did an okay job, but they did a great job.
So clearly there wasn't as much burden and things going on with you, with, you know, like when you get to Honey Lake,
right?
However, was it a similar circumstance, like when you get in that bunk room for the first time, or not at all? Like,
I don't understand what you're trying to ask.
So you're saying that there was some awkwardness when you first got to the place with the other ladies, right?
No. I'm sorry.
Okay.
We were all kind of nervous about what we were going to say for our testimony.
Oh, okay. I got it.
Yeah. Not nervous.
I thought you meant when you first got to the place.
No,
Okay,
we were
gotcha.
just like fast friends.
Yeah.
Like completely, no awkwardness. And that's the one thing that I love too. It's like, and ever since we've been back for a week, just constantly staying in touch.
Yep.
And
that's something that we're going to talk about too, are the relationships that you make at Honey Lake, because you have people you're still in contact with, or at least one that I can think of. And then how crazy it was to have quick relationships right off the bat with Alumni Weekend.
Yeah, because we all have this common ground. And one thing that we all had talked about is kind of like when we all at our different times, there was one person that when they were there was like back in 2017. So we're talking like right when Honey Lake started and whatnot. But how the staff there, I just want to say the staff there at Honey Lake, there were some ladies there in the area where we ate that remembered me from a few years ago. Everybody from day one was so kind and considerate and approachable. And we all at this alumni weekend, we were all mentioning that. It's just coming from whatever situation that we had in our home life. And normally it's not like the best situation, obviously, if you're going somewhere to get treatment for whatever reason, you're coming from a harsh scenario or scenarios. And then you're welcomed into this place where they are just so loving and doting on you and respectful. That was the one thing where it took me back a little bit. I was like, you're calling me ma'am and you have this smile on your face and you're doing everything but saying, I love you, because that's the emotion that they were portraying. And it hasn't changed one bit.
Yeah. That was the thing that person said that was there so long ago. It's hard to even tell his story without getting emotional about it. But he said that when he got to the gate, he got that big old hug and he could just feel the love, the care. It's the first real hug he'd had in forever, and it was genuine and just kind of, my interpretation was he could just feel it all just start to drain at that point and know that he was going to be in great care. And
you know what? I never wrote down the woman that met us at that little house. So you drive in, there's a gate, and there's this little house where it's kind of like the holding house before you go. At least
the guard shack.
The guard shack.
It really is. It's the guard shack.
For me at that time, before I went to the place where I spent my first 2 weeks when I was in quarantine, and then to the main area. But I remember her. It's so funny. I didn't believe it then. I was hoping for it. And a lot of those things, like when people were saying things, especially what I'm going to say, I was hoping that you would hear it. So you would get hope that me going there was going to be beneficial. But she said, you are going to walk out of this place a different person than how you walked in. And then she actually said, I think she said it twice because she said it to you. And I was hoping that would, resonate somehow or whatever, but I've never forgot that. And that was just like, as soon as you walked onto the property, it's like felt, obviously, I felt some things at that time, but reflecting back on it, it's that much more.
Yeah.
I understand it better. It was really cool. So we had dinner and fellowship on Friday night, which was really kind of great. On Saturday, the first thing we did on Saturday, aside from breakfast, was one of Brett's favorite things.
Are we being sarcastic? Yeah, not so much. Yeah.
You did great.
Yeah. Scored my Dunkin' coffee in the morning.
Yeah,
should have gotten breakfast too. But I learned in the second day I got breakfast.
But what did we do that first thing after breakfast on Saturday morning?
We went godforsaken horseback riding.
And
I enjoyed it.
That's a question.
I don't know what
No,
you're
you did a
getting
great
at.
job. Well, but he was it was a he, right? I think it was
My
a he.
horse. Yeah.
He was a great horse. I mean,
Yep.
aside from
Dusty.
the other couple of times that I have forced you to go horseback riding, it was a pretty decent experience. It
It's
wasn't
not-
too hot first thing in the morning.
It's not that I don't like horses. It's the fact that I have never been horseback riding where they haven't gotten spooked or taken off running for no reason or almost fallen down on top of me, whatever. So I'm always apprehensive around horses. And the last time that we went before Honey Lake, it's like this woman hears us having this conversation about how apprehensive I am about horses, and then immediately says, "Sir, can you be assertive?" And I'm like, yeah, why?" "Well, this horse here is a little stubborn." Great. Did you not hear anything we were just talking about? However, it was not like that because Pastor Perry's amazing.
So
Put
Pastor
me on
Perry
an
was
amazing horse.
was like the first counseling I ever got, and he's not a counselor or anything like that. He is the one that takes care of the horses and the equestrian part of it. But I remember it was the first full day. Actually, it was that first night I was walking over to the horses because I love horses. I just love how you can feel their emotions, they can feel yours, and I just connected with them. And I got to ride the horse that I rode 4 years ago, Jughead, which is a female. Beautiful. Oh, we had such amazing moments together. But I was looking at the horses that first night, and Perry came over to me, and the first thing, at least for me, when I got there, is I really didn't want to talk, and which is crazy because I'm pretty much. I mean, I'm an extroverted introvert a little bit. I think I'm more of an introvert now.
You and I both are. We're extroverted introverts.
Yeah.
Probably because our job had, well, I mean, we were really social in our party days, which, it is what it is. But I think ultimately we're both introverted.
Yeah.
That's kind of a common thing, though, that from what I gathered from the stories we heard and everything, is you just don't know what to expect. So the first thing that most people do anyway is just retreat within themselves, right? When they're in such an uncomfortable experience.
Yeah. But he introduced himself and just, it's like, asked me questions in a gentle way.
Yep.
And, I fell in love with him right away. He looks exactly the same. Has exactly the same big heart, just easygoing guy. And
you feel like you've known him your whole life in like a matter of seconds.
Yeah. I love people like that.
Yeah.
So we rode the horses. You were able to see the other side of like the main area, the big beautiful lake, and
which that is Honey Lake, right?
That is actually Honey Lake,
the one behind the church.
Yes.
Yeah.
After that, we were able to go on a wellness walk, and
a wellness walk following what, 10 horses?
Yeah.
Whatever it was, 8, 7.
I mean,
anyway,
yeah.
Our wellness walk, we're walking behind the next group of horseback riders. Like, why was there not a different path? So then I got grief for getting on the golf cart. But one, I had already gotten chafed from riding a horse. Probably TMI, I know, but there you go. And then we start literally walking right behind horses, dropping landmines.
It was
so
fine.
I got on the golf cart until the path widened and I could take a different route.
And your watch was wondering.
Yeah, my watch was wondering what the heck was going on with me because I've never gotten so much exercise in 1 week like that, let alone one day.
It was great though. I loved the weather. I mean, it was hot, but it
wasn't too bad.
It wasn't too bad.
Horseback ride in the morning.
Yeah. So we did that, and then they gave us a really amazing barbecue by the pool.
That food was good.
That was amazing.
Yeah.
I had seconds.
And it, like, to be fair, it's not like the breakfast was horrible. However, I had heard about all of the good food. That's one of the things you talked about. It's what a lot of the other people from Alumni Weekend talked about, was how great the food was. That has clearly changed.
Just a
And
little bit.
It's like your breakfast, your free breakfast at a Hampton Inn or a Springfield Suites, whatever the case may be. It's like powdered eggs and like frozen sausage and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it's not like it's horrible. I'm not saying that.
Yeah, I don't want to say anything negative about it because,
No.
and one person had said, really, we're not here for the food.
No,
But that barbecue,
there's some point to that.
That was amazing.
The barbecue was great. Yeah,
it was really good. And we had a volleyball game, the alumni against the patients, and I'm pretty sure that we won.
Kept going back and it kept going back and forth. Pastors were switching sides, and there may have been participation trophies, and
I think
some of us were pretty competitive, and we didn't like the changing of.
Yeah. And I think that's when we all really started to get comfortable with each other. Yeah. And I went up and started talking to a couple of the ladies, and the guys, and the camaraderie and whatnot, which was really cool. So after that, we had like a couple hours break and able to go back to our Airbnbs. It was so awesome. And I want to thank the fellas. You were invited back to the fellas Airbnb so you could hang out with them for a little while, because you stayed in Tallahassee.
Yep. It was like a 40-minute drive back and forth, which was worth every minute of it. It wasn't bad. But yeah, I appreciated being able to go back and hang out with the guys for those 2 hours.
Yeah, that was really cool. And so Pastor John could get his nappy nap. That was the most important thing. And that's, I was able to really start talking to the ladies in the house there. And then we went back and had was a Bible study beforehand?
Yep.
There was a Bible study beforehand, which I want to remind you, and this is something only if we can get into it in this particular hour, but when we were horseback riding at 9:00 on Saturday morning, Pastor John, and this is normally what happens at Honey Lake, you have Monday through Friday, they have, counseling sessions, group, individual, some lessons and stuff intertwined with, everybody gets at least a little bit of free time during the day. But during the weekend, they also want to make sure that, you're staying consistent in your progress. And so Saturday mornings, they bring in a different pastor every single weekend. So you can learn some things. So obviously Pastor John was there, and he was talking about which this was our call last night for one of the Zoom Illuminati
alumni.
About how negative thoughts coming into your mind, recognizing if it's from God or from Satan, the devil, whatever you want to call him. Refocusing, reframing, and trying to get yourself out of that negative thought process. Anyway,
one thing they talked about all the time, and I couldn't think of it in the instant that you were asking, but they normally just refer to it as the enemy.
Yeah. Right. Yes, that's what I was trying to think of. So anyway, that morning, we missed out on that class, but I was able to take notes, and maybe I'll be able to say something about it later. But we had a different study on Saturday night, and then we started in on our testimonies. And one thing, like when I was there, I had spent 6 weeks with this one of the patients. It was this guy, and wonderful fella. And right before we graduated, we were able to, express, kind of give a testimony. Some people sang, did, some people played music, whatever that you wanted to kind of wrap up your time there. And he had given his testimony. And I realized that I had not really known him until he gave his testimony. Yeah. Which was really, really powerful, crazy. Like, how is this person still staying? And so when the alumni, when they were giving their testimony, I was like on the edge of my seat, and like, I want to know as much information as possible and kind of get a better picture of where they came from. Mm-hmm. And it was just amazing. And then, before we went up, that was so great. I thought that it was just going to be me. But I'm so happy that John had invited you up to give your side of it too, because our story is really kind of, I don't want to say unique or anything like that.
Well, we learned quickly that it's not unique.
Yeah.
Right. So it's awesome that we were able to give that testimony together. I didn't have anything prepared because I didn't know what to expect, right? As a spouse, there was another spouse there too. Otherwise, everybody was alumni, having been a patient. I don't even know that patient's the right word, but everything else sounds more derogatory. So that's why I'm going with that until I know what I should say.
Visitor. I'm a visitor. I'm a visitor.
So anyway, I'm glad that I was able to give my testimony. I was asked a specific question and I didn't really know how to answer it. And I literally just said, okay, well, I don't know the answer to that. So let me just kind of talk about the experience and see if I come to the answer. And just, talked about, was fully transparent about what things were like when we got there and how things were at home. And
when we were driving up on Friday, I had asked you something, and that's kind of something that you also mentioned during the testimony about, how did you feel driving up?
Yeah.
And so
I said, this time I plan on taking you home with me.
And I didn't know
that wasn't the case the first time.
Yeah. And I didn't know that. Didn't know it at all. I still thought that there was like hope. This is just something that we have to get through, and I've got to prove myself. And, I never really thought that like divorce was in the cards, which is, again, we've talked about this, why I think that I kept on, going back to my addiction so much, because I figured, you're never gonna leave.
Right.
It's never gonna get to be that bad. I know you love me too much, which it's kind of funny.
Which there was truth to that. And there was a 7-year-old kid that had to be taken care of that I couldn't continue to put, quite honestly, in your care at the time.
Yeah.
Because of driving and things like that. So.
Yeah, for sure. So, and I'm going to circle back on that.
Whatever, Jen.
I know you were going to say that. So anyway, we had dinner, and then we had like a group, all of us alumni were up in the front. And I wish I had this ready. There was this one woman there who she was the last person to really say something to the entire room, which was just so powerful. I know what I'll do is I'll type it up and I'll put it on our Facebook page.
Okay.
But it was just such an inspirational message about, don't give up, and obviously a little bit more eloquent than don't give up. But we were all up there, and Pastor was able to ask us questions, and it was really great because after that is when we had the first person come up to us.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, I also want to put in there, I beat him at a game of pool.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was my turf. It was my turf. I had to win.
I'll just go ahead and say yes. She did beat me fair and square, even though it was a scratch on the 8-ball.
I only had the 9-ball left. Anyway.
So that story that you were talking about, was that Daisy's? Is that what you were talking about?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what I found powerful about that testimony was how that individual had a vision of a place. And at one point in their life, it was a bad place.
Mm-hmm.
Let me know if this is the way that you interpreted it, because it's how I interpreted it too.
It was,
And then after Honey Lake, they had the same vision, and now it was a happy place.
Yeah,
and somebody else had somebody they talked to, right? That they didn't even know had a vision of them in this place.
So they had a vision of themselves as a child in like a field of daisies, and it was not a positive experience.
No.
And when they were at Honey Lake, some other random patient had walked up to them and said, I have this strange like vision of you in this field of daisies, but you're an adult. And what that kind of signified, at least to me, is like, now you're growing past that. You're stronger. You're, and so now this alumni, it's kind of like is it mantra or mantra?
Mantra.
Thank you.
Just like it's scenario, not scenario.
Okay. Mantra. So they use that as like cognizantly. Am I saying it right?
Yeah.
On purpose?
Mm-hmm.
Sweet. I'm doing so good. As a reminder, and it gives them strength. Like they named a pet after Daisy.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're given their testimony, like, they said, I'm constantly reminded with these daisies, and they pointed down to me and said, even up to like a couple minutes ago, you have daisies on your bag.
Yeah,
that brought me to tears. Which this is a bag that I got for Mother's Day from my daughter and grandbabies that I actually almost didn't take because I thought it was a little too flimsy.
Mm-hmm.
It's just amazing how God works.
Yeah,
it's just completely amazing. And so yeah, that kind of wrapped up the night. We had that first person, and that's one thing, I said a prayer before we went up there, trying to do a good job. That's the one thing. And I had talked to some of the other alumni about it later, is, one thing that I battle, is I want to tell my story so much, but I also don't want to be, look at me about it.
Right.
There's that fine line of, am I bragging about it, or am I just helping people? Just being completely transparent,
That's typically, I hope you can remember what you're going to say, because I think it's important to talk about that, because it comes up in a lot of different kinds of things, right? So that's one of those things that we doubt ourselves and stifle our own happiness, joy. That was one cool thing that we talked about, is there's a big difference between joy and happiness. That I would say is joy, right? You stifle your own joy because you're afraid that it will look like you're bragging to other people.
Right.
The people who will look at it that way are people who most likely need help themselves.
Okay. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
And it actually comes back around too to that breathing exercises and stuff that I was talking about.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things in reframing is discounting the positive.
Right.
If you did a good job, you'll tell yourself that anyone could have done it.
After what we've been through, after the other testimonies we've heard and what those people have been through, stand on the effing mountaintops and scream it as loud as you can.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that.
F was for freaking, by the way.
I thought it was flipping.
Yeah, that too.
Flipping burgers. So, I said a prayer, to make sure that too boastful, I guess. I don't want to be too boastful, but I said, give me the right words to say. I had written some stuff down. I'll put my testimony up on our Facebook page. And but the one thing I said, if there's one person that I can reach,
right,
and not just reach, someone that will come and talk to us, because it's nice to see that, one, I'm still not alone. I know I'm not alone, but that someone connects enough that wants to try to, help themselves, and it's more personal. You can actually have a conversation and maybe do a little bit more when you have that one-on-one conversation. So somebody came up to us afterwards.
Yeah.
Very similar situation.
Yep, absolutely. And you could feel the pain, could see the pain.
Mm-hmm.
And
it's hard. It's hard to come up to strangers and express that. So proud of that.
But it's how important. So, if anybody who's ever been to Honey Lake hears this and gets the opportunity to go to Alumni Weekend, it's why giving your testimony is so important, because had we not, there's 4 people that would not have approached us to speak to us. So Amanda actually had one that was solo, just just wanted to talk to her, but there were 3 others that wanted to talk more to both of us for both sides of the experience and everything. And it was awesome to know, one, that prayer was answered, 2, that our testimony was impactful enough to reach multiple people. If, like we always say, if we can just help one person with whatever it is that we're doing, we say that about this podcast, right? But multiple people to approach us and be able to talk some things out, and that was great.
Well, and I don't look at it as 4 people, because they have people too. We have this great opportunity, and it's why we're using this platform is, I want to impact as many people as possible. Because one thing, on Saturday morning when we were riding the horses, the other part of Honey Lake, they have an adolescent program. And it is for, I believe, 13 to 17-year-old girls that are going through the whole gamut of stuff.
Youth,
and
right?
that's hard enough, right? Yeah. I mean, geez,
when you say the other parts, you're really just clearly saying one side of the street and the other side of the street, right?
Yeah.
Those are the 2 parts of Honey Lake.
The 2 parts of Honey Lake.
One's on one side of the street, one's on the other side of the street where the church and the actual Honey Lake are.
And I'm going to do a squirrel for a moment. I am, for some of you who are around our age, if you remember that movie Big back in the day, it's got Tom Hanks. And so he makes a wish on a little fortune thing at a fair. And he's like, he wishes he was big.
Zoltan.
I think it's Zoltar. Anyway, he as an adult, he has a relationship with like a 30-year-old woman. And when she finally finds out that he's really a kid, he's like, come back with me. And she laughs and she's like, oh no, I've already been there. It's hard enough. And when I was young and I saw that, I was like, go back with him.
Yeah,
but I
would
never
desire to do those.
I would never want to go back. And so that I think about that when I think about these young girls that are on the other side of the road with Honey Lake, because it is so hard already. And they have so many other issues that are just kind of like toppled onto them. And so we are on the horses. We're getting back to the main part of Honey Lake. And, all the while, that's why I love horseback riding too. It's like you can just be one with the horse and nature and your thoughts. And that was really the first time I could really get back into the swing of things, I guess, at Honey Lake. And I'm like, God, what do you need me to do? Because I'm still kind of curious. I don't know exactly where my path is going, but I'm very peaceful, comforted, and joyful about not knowing, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And so we're going back and the girls were on a walk. And I'm like, what if that's what I need to do? I know I want to help people. That was like a long detour of me trying to say, I want to help people. I want them to know that, you can have all the tools and everything and the experience that I had over these past 4 years. You can learn them a whole lot quicker and maybe save yourself, your family, a whole lot of heartache by the experiences that I've already had, if I can share as much as I can. And I don't know if maybe that's something that is in our future, helping younger ladies. Because gosh, I wish somebody would have shaken me when I was 17 to 20, 25 years old, 30 even,
Well, you've already sensed that may be your calling anyway, because as you go through your college studies to work towards your psychology degree, that led you to 2 childcare positions, right?
Yeah.
One was church related, and that was kind of something you wanted to do, but then that led to another childcare position where it's like, you mentioned that you felt like God was trying to tell you, get them early and help them early
and prepare me. You know, it's when I went into Honey Lake and when I was leaving, I don't want to say I had like a chip on my shoulder, but I was feeling pretty good about everything that I had accomplished. But over these 4 years, I just appreciate the fact so much that God doesn't give us everything all at once. Even though that is our human nature now. Yeah. I really appreciate the progression because it just really builds you, makes you stronger, makes you understand. That's the whole thing. It's like, I want to try to understand. Because when you understand it, it makes things easier.
That came up multiple times in testimonies, was God's timing. Because we want now. You want to be fixed when you're out, right? That was a common theme too.
Yep.
That, all right, I'm done with Honey Lake, I'm fixed. And that's not the case.
No. It's funny. One of the questions that we had, so we were on a call last night for the alumni, and one of the questions that Pastor John had asked was, what blindsided you after you came home from Honey Lake?
Yeah.
Amazing question.
What was your answer?
Whew. I wrote it down. Like, seriously. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like 6 different things. So the first one was not like it blindsided me. I guess I knew it was coming, but I didn't know all the different scenarios of, okay, let me just say, staying sober, obviously.
Yeah.
It blindsided me with how, I don't want to say difficult, because I mean, after we went through all of our, crappy months and stuff, then you started to become really supportive and asking me, do we actually, that's not true. Even when we started going out and doing things with other people, you would ask, is this somewhere that you want to go? Do you need to leave or whatever? Well, it was finding my place.
Not do you need to leave? Do we need to leave? I would never have you leave on your own.
That's not what I meant.
And most, yeah. Yeah. Nice. Paint me like an a-hole. Hey, I'm going to sit here and drink with my friends. Do you need to leave? No, that's not what that looked like. In fact, it was always before that too. Are you going to be comfortable in this environment? And quite honestly, even to this day, if we know that environment is exclusively about drinking, we don't do it.
Yeah, we're normally not doing it. So what blindsided me was how to approach all the different places that we would normally be. And then on the same token, what kind of blindsided me a little bit was how well I adjusted to, because I learned that I need to have a game plan. And that's one thing that I tell people now. If you're going to go places or be around certain people, have a game plan of how you're going to respond before you get there and then not sure how to respond. Have an exit strategy.
Yeah.
And so there was that. The other thing was, what blindsided me was our marriage.
Yeah.
I thought that, I'm better, and this is, you wanted me sober. Right. I'm sober. Why are we still having an issue? Right.
Yeah.
And that was something all of those months, and then the up and down. Yeah. The job I had to learn how to do for myself. And I actually got pretty good at it. I wasn't by myself. I found a different support system. I went to a different group for a time being that kind of filled in the gap of all the things that I knew I couldn't do for myself, that we would normally do together. And actually what blindsided me was how well I felt with getting accustomed to the unknown. Because another question that he asked, what's the one thing that I learned that I can, is healthily a word? He said that
No.
last night and I wrote it down.
No, but I'm all about making up words.
Awesome. What's one thing I learned that I can employ moving forward?
Mm-hmm.
And even though I had really no idea about what I was doing at first, and I mean, this is kind of like a constant theme. I'm in the same situation now about certain things. You know, what am I supposed to be doing with this, that, and the other? I learned that I had to put God first with everything. And there is that piece. Yeah, I don't have the anxiety like I did before.
Right.
And what blindsided me with that was how easy it was for me to give it to God. It's easy to say, it's easy to hear. But I learned how to do that when I was at Honey Lake. So it wasn't that hard for me when I came home.
Yeah. And that is, I won't say that was necessarily the like a common thread, but we did hear that multiple times, that Honey Lake provided the tools for when things got rough afterwards. And for some people, their lives were way worse afterwards for different reasons than they were before.
Yeah.
So, but they had the tools to
work
cope
through
and
it in a
power
healthy
through
way.
it, and in a healthy way, and not go back to hang out with old demons.
The other thing that I wrote down and what blindsided me, actually, the detachment from my previous life.
That's interesting.
Not in a way that maybe you're thinking.
No, I'm not thinking about anything.
Okay. It was easier for me to detach than I thought it would be.
Mm-hmm.
And I just told a really great friend what I'm about to say, maybe about 4 or 5 weeks ago when we were on like a girls' night, because, we're talking about drinking and whatever. They drink every now and again. I don't, and they ask me, which I really appreciate, how I feel and when I was drinking and like all throughout my 20s and 30s and stuff, I used alcohol as a way to make me feel comfortable, confident, expressive, let my guards, because I've got multiple personalities, guard down. And what I learned is I'm pretty much the same person as before. I'm still going to be the first person on the dance floor. I'm still going to crack a joke, yak it up, talk in front of people, But I don't.
So it's yuck it up.
Yak it up.
Yak it up means that you're vomiting.
Oh, okay. Anyway, either way.
Told you.
Either way.
Horrible with these kind of cliches and stuff.
But I'm pretty much the same person. So it's not like I really detached from my previous life. I still do a lot of the same things. It's just without alcohol, because I realize I don't need it. I don't need that, and a lot of people drink too, because it loosens you up a little bit. If you can find a natural way of doing that, go for it.
And there's a lot of ways to get around some of the things that bother you from the world that still drinks, right? Mm-hmm. One of the things, quite honestly, is that society, there's a movement towards sobriety, and that is awesome.
Yeah.
Here locally for us, the DeRosiers own downtown Cava, and that place is awesome. I love taking drinking friends there, and they go, "Wait, you mean I can't get alcohol here?" Like, no, you can't. You can get some weed juice, but you're not getting any alcohol.
Cava and Kratom is not weed
No,
juice.
it's not. I'm just teasing. But it's an awesome environment. They constantly do really cool things that you don't see at wastoid nightclubs.
No.
They just recently did the second annual prom do-over. Like, what an
Yeah.
amazing concept, right?
Bingo. I don't think they've
We
done
did
bingo,
a
but we
Roaring
did
20s
like
night,
poker,
and
gambling night and stuff.
and it's in an old, like, historic
Train
late
station.
1800s, early 1900s train station. So when you do those like throwback themes, like the gangster nights and the Roaring 20s and everything, it's like you're in the right place. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's
So
cool.
that's there's fun to be had. The other thing that I thought was really important, and this was from OG, I'm gonna give my new friends and my new bromances like pet names. Is that weird? You guys are cool with it.
Not for you.
So like OG and Brother Love, when I was hanging out with them, OG just said that, like, if he's out in that environment, if it's a Red Bull that he's drinking or whatever it is, he just puts it, like, if you are in a bar environment, put it in a freaking cup like everybody else, throw a lime on top, and everybody shuts the heck up.
I love it's just the experience. I mean, it I don't want to say classy because it's not like, but it like what is that mule drink?
It's the
But it's like a whiskey drink, right?
it is. It's a bourbon drink.
Okay.
Yeah.
So at Downtown Kava, they actually have the non-alcoholic, and it looks like it comes in that kind of, you know, glass container and stuff. I know it's not glass; it's like a copper or something like that, right?
Oh yeah, probably copper. It comes in they're like tin cups and stuff.
But it's just like fun to,
it is.
to
They
partake
even
of that.
smoke it up. They have that one that they actually smoke like you would with the actual bourbon drink.
Yeah, it's so much more fun than just drinking out of a bottle of water. And
you,
I mean,
know what's most amazing about it?
Huh.
You can freaking drive home when you're done.
Yeah, yeah. Maybe people that, and again, I'm not trying to say anything derogatory to somebody who drinks, or, you know, I just can't do that. It's fun for people like myself because it just heightens the experience. I mean, I don't know. It's kind of like I love drinking these instead of water.
Yeah, everybody loves drinking Celsius. It's like crazy that
it's just something different than plain old water.
Yeah.
And I find joy in that.
And I want to be clear too, and just be fully transparent, because I'm in no way up here preaching and looking down on anybody either, because I still drink sometimes.
Thank you for bringing that up. That's one thing when I was talking with my friend, and it comes up every now and again. It came up this past weekend. You know, when I mentioned to you, you know, whoever it is, that I'm 4 years sober, I get that. Oh, good for you. You know, I should quit drinking. I didn't tell you that I was sober because I want you to feel bad,
right?
Or, you know, you to like look within yourself about, you know, I'm bad for this, that, or the other. No, not at all. But if you're thinking that you might have an issue with alcohol, you probably do, in my opinion. If you've ever taken a quiz, you know, you probably need to cut back a little bit. But yeah, I'm not here to judge or anything. I learned that while I was at Honey Lake. I can't judge. Now, am I human? And do I falter sometimes and catch myself? Absolutely. But I'm trying to become a better person every single day, and just get closer to Jesus. And, you know, that's my preaching moment for a second. But I tell you what, without him, I wouldn't be where I'm at.
No,
there's
we
way.
wouldn't be where we are. We wouldn't have survived it.
No way. So, you know, we talked a lot about, we didn't even get to a lot of things. So we've got content for the next one. But I do have a couple of things that I wanted to say. Yeah. I heard this last night, and it was one of those, write that down. God's strength is made perfect in my weakness. I love that. And so one person, it's kind of funny how this all ties back in. So one person that we talked to on the weekend, it was on Sunday. We were supposed to leave like around 1:00, and we were there till about 3. And I'm so
it was worth
every second. Every second. They had pulled us aside, and we spoke with them, and hopefully we instilled some good information. And
it was impactful. Hopefully it was impactful and
they were very new
value.
at Honey Lake. So, and that's the thing, the first 2.5, 3 weeks, you're just getting your bearings, figuring stuff out. I really don't think the healing starts until you're at least, 3 weeks in. And that was a constant theme while I was there. So anyway, when we were talking to this person, it's so funny. You had mentioned, you're like, tell this person, about what you had said to me at one point about I was your addiction. Right? So I've got this vision journal from 2020. And I got it obviously like October, November of 2019. The first day that I wrote in here was from November 19th of 2019. And when we were speaking to this person, so basically how the story goes, Brett and I had gotten into a fight, and I'm like, you just don't understand how hard this is. You've never had an addiction. I'm trying to justify, right? And deflect everything that's going on with me. And he had said, you were my addiction, which actually was like the most romantic and the most saddest thing that I had ever heard. So for one reason or the other, we had brought that up to this person on Sunday. And so I just wanted to clarify for you. This is when I was like struggling. So November of 2019, we were separated pretty much. And it was before I went to Honey Lake. At this time, I didn't even know what was going to transpire over the next 6 months. I remember I was gone for Easter. And I think a couple of other times, and it was just a mess as far as our relationship at that point. But I had written in here, I'm going to go for the addiction thing first, or addicted to you. I will never and should never forget the pain in Brett's eyes and raw emotion he showed from his heart on Saturday night. So that was November 17th of 2019. You were my addiction. Those words go over and over in my mind. I choose not to fail him, fail God, and fail myself and Talon. So I was starting we were well over a year of me having an issue that was known at that time. I was drinking obviously for years. But I think that this was the first thing I wrote down. This is the first step that I believe I took, writing stuff down to build me into, finally getting to Honey Lake and everything. And the first thing that I wrote down, which I think we could probably close on this. I feel you can't have a vision for the future unless you look at your past and get through the present first. The last few days have been an emotional wreck and awakening. If anyone is to ever think that they have it all figured out, well, they are wrong. I was wrong.
Yeah.
And I love, and we had mentioned this to a couple of patients, write this stuff down. Even if you think it doesn't mean anything, write your thoughts down while you're going through this process, because I love looking back on all of this.
Yeah, well, it was important for you in the process. It is something that they teach, is to journal. One of the other amazing people that we were there with journaled while they were there. I think they said that they continued to journal. And honestly, without those journals, we'd probably still do something like this, but we wouldn't have the concrete thoughts and everything to reflect on in Amanda's situation, for the time that she spent there. So the journals are important, and it's definitely part of your healing process. It goes a long way into I imagine that there's probably even times in weakness that those are important when you're out of Honey Lake.
Oh yeah. I don't look at it enough, which is again like how we started tonight's episode was, I'm so glad that I went to Honey Lake at the time that I did, because would I have been okay? Yeah. I think just at life in general. We can all trot along and do everything okay, but do you really just want to be okay?
Right.
I want to be better than that.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just so glad that we had this opportunity. I was going to say one more thing and maybe end for the night.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that I had mentioned during my testimony is just something that I kind of want to leave you guys with. Whoever hears this message, if you take something away from it, that would be great. Everything you have gone through, everything you are going through, and everything you will go through, there is a purpose for it. God never wastes a hurt. And I love that. He sure doesn't.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. So mic drop moment on that one. No, seriously though, that's powerful and it's true. It was something that we heard, something very similar like that in somebody else's testimony, where along those lines they said that even if it was alcohol, this was going to happen because of the end result and being a better person on the other side.
Mm-hmm.
So powerful. Yes, God never wastes a hurt. So I would imagine, I just always say, don't like saying hopefully. I mean, one thing that we've learned in that whole, boastful thing, it's not to be boastful, but I know that there's value coming out of this, and, hopefully
prayerfully. We can say prayerfully.
Yeah. So I would imagine that at some point or another, it will reach somebody and be impactful and valuable to you. That's our main goal for doing this. And to give two perspectives of what we went through
and are going through.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I mean, it's an ongoing process.
Yeah.
And like Amanda alluded to, it was ugly in the beginning. It was a solid 10 months before we made the decision that we were really going to work together to make it work. So if you are having troubles, if you need help, you need a lifeline. You need.
They call me on the landline.
Yeah, right. If you still have one of those. Otherwise, cell phones work too. They don't work in Honey Lake very well, but they work.
and we're not licensed counselors or anything like that yet.
No,
I'm working on it.
We just want to be able to provide this resource to help the person who needs help and their spouse, family, friends, that sort of thing. That's the perspective that I bring. And now, after Alumni Weekend, for me, it was amazing to experience on a small level what you experienced every day. Because one of the cool things was that we were invited for some of the group sessions that they do. And that was awesome to see what that looks like. A lot less intimidating and a lot more positive than the mental picture I had in my head.
Really?
Yeah,
I'm happy about that.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, we're here to help to reach anybody and everybody that needs help. So feel free to reach out to us. Obviously, we understand confidentiality and everything like that. So you can reach us by private messaging us on the Facebook group. It's Faith Over Fear, Overcoming Addiction, which we're going to have a conversation and talk about that last part, overcoming addiction, because there was something that was said and I can't remember what it was now. And I think that would better fit what we're trying to do here, because I didn't know about that term until we went to Alumni Weekend, and it was something about like, this is my story or something along those lines. So we'll have to talk about what that phrase was.
Okay.
So we might rebrand that little tagline, but otherwise everything will stay the same. Find us on Facebook, where you can message us privately. We are not hard to find, so I don't think it really matters. I'm Brett Bishop. She's Amanda Bishop. We're realtors, and realtors have their information all over the flipping place, right?
If you're sitting on a park bench, maybe we're on
not
there.
us.
No, we're not.
Not
we're
us. I don't waste money on things like that. But seriously, reach out. There's ways to find us. You can find us. Yeah.
You can find us.
And if you're thinking about a place, if you're ready to make that decision, Honey Lake is a lifesaver, right?
Yeah.
Doesn't necessarily mean it's for everybody. It's like with everything else in life, there's a right fit. But it's definitely something. It's a place worth checking out. All the stories that we heard, that was the overall common thread. It was a lifesaver to save their lives. So
yeah,
awesome. Yeah.
So thank you for being with us tonight.
Yeah.
And
are we gonna continue more of our reflection in the next one? Is that what you want to do?
I think that we didn't really get into everything that
we didn't get into the relationships that were formed, which I
relationships,
talk
and
about.
then a little bit more about maybe how your feeling was. I mean, you wrapped it up really great. But just to hear a little bit more about your experiences, I would really like to hear that, because coming from a different perspective, I think that's really important.
Yeah.
So we'll do that next week.
Part 2 next week. All right. And we will see you then. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thanks for coming.